Have you ever met someone who just, well, seems to get what they want, almost effortlessly?
Yeah, like they're already living that life they desire even before it's fully shown up on the outside.
Exactly. So today, we're doing a deep dive into this whole concept. It's often called living in the end.
Right. And we've got a mix of sources here, stuff from Reddit discussions,
Hmm.
articles from places like Better Up, Yoga International.
Teachings linked to Neville Goddard, even some perspectives that might touch on neuroscience, like from a Stanford report piece.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, to kind of sift through all this, figure out what living in the end really means according to these sources, and, pull out the key ideas you might find useful.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. Because based on these sources, especially the ones talking about Neville Goddard,
Hmm.
well, living in the end isn't just doing certain techniques
Uh-huh.
or like trying to force yourself into thinking a certain way.
So it's not just repeating affirmations you don't quite believe, or just like acting as if on the surface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The core idea presented is that it's really a state of faith, of deep trust, an inner knowing.
Knowing.
Yeah, it's about dwelling in the feeling or the assumption that your desired reality. It's already here, right now.
Okay, hang on. So if you, say, wanted financial freedom.
Right. If you already had it or that great relationship or whatever the goal is, you wouldn't be constantly trying to get it, would you?
No, you wouldn't be worrying about not having it.
You just know it's sorted, it's handled.
That feels like a big shift from striving and trying to just being in that state.
Precisely. And one source actually gives a pretty good test for this.
Oh, yeah.
Just ask yourself, what would I actually be doing? How would I feel if my problem was already solved?
Ah, that's practical. It gives you a picture, or rather a feeling, of that end state.
Exactly. That's the internal target.
But why? Why does that inner state have so much power? What's the mechanism suggested here?
This is where it gets really fascinating. Several sources point squarely at imagination.
Okay. Not just daydreaming, though.
Yeah. No, not idle fantasy. Teachings like Goddard's frame imagination as like the primary creative power in us.
Wow.
One source even uses the phrase Christ in man to describe it,
Yeah.
suggesting that because this creative power is within you, well, all things are possible to him who believes.
So the idea is my inner world, my imagination, my feelings isn't just passive. It's actually shaping my outer reality.
That's the core claim, yeah. The external world is often described as basically a mirror, a reflection of your inner state. So by vividly imagining it, maybe more importantly, by assuming and really feeling the emotions of your goal achieved, you're impressing that onto your subconscious.
And the idea is if you persist in that feeling.
It hardens into fact. That's the phrase used. It becomes your actual tangible reality. It's less about fighting the outside world and more about cultivating the inside one.
Okay, that makes sense conceptually. But if that inner state is the key, how do you actually get there? How do you cultivate that feeling, especially when it's not your current reality? This is where the techniques come in, I guess.
Yes, but maybe not how people often think of them. Techniques like visualization, affirmations, maybe even vision boards,
Yeah.
they're presented more as tools.
Tools to do what?
Tools to help you immerse yourself, to embody that desired state, to make it feel real now.
Right.
So with visualization, yeah, use all your senses. But the absolute key, stressed in sources like Better Up and Yoga International, is locking onto the feeling.
Not just the picture, but the feeling of relief or joy or...
Certainty. Exactly. How would you genuinely feel if it were true right now?
And affirmations.
Best used in the present tense,
Right.
reflecting that reality. I am, not I will be. And that Stanford note mentioning neural pathways, it hints that this isn't just wishful thinking. Consistent practice might actually be rewiring your brain to align with that state.
So consistency with these tools helps build that inner assumption, makes it feel more solid.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Okay, but let's talk reality checks. What happens when my bank account or my circumstances look nothing like that end state I'm trying to feel? That's a huge hurdle, right?
Absolutely critical point. And the sources, like some of those Reddit discussions, they're clear. Living in the end doesn't mean you pretend your current situation doesn't exist or ignore facts.
It doesn't. Okay.
No, it's about maintaining the inner conviction, the feeling of knowing it's done, even if the outside evidence haven't caught up yet.
Ah, okay.
Like knowing your paycheck is deposited on Friday, you might be low on funds Wednesday, but you don't usually panic because you know Friday's coming. You know resolution is on its way.
That's a great analogy. It clarifies the knowing part despite temporary lack. What about those nagging inner voices, though? The I'm not good enough, this is impossible beliefs.
Yeah, huge blockers. Sources like The Savage Leader really emphasize tackling those. The advice. First, spot them. Then really challenge them, like, is there actual proof for this belief?
Questioning the evidence.
Right. And then actively practicing positive self-talk to replace them. And crucially, taking actions, even small ones, that contradict the old belief. That helps dismantle it.
So it's thought and action.
Exactly. And look, setbacks will happen. That's where maybe mindfulness comes in, like the Yoga International source suggests. Accepting setbacks with some self-compassion.
Instead of beating yourself up.
Right. Learning from them, refocusing on what you can control now, but without letting it shake that core inner knowing of the end result.
It sounds like a continuous practice then, an ongoing inner alignment, not a one-and-done thing.
Definitely. And it's interesting, the Stanford piece hint, it suggested that focusing compassionately on others can actually boost your own well-being.
Oh, really?
Yeah, potentially making this whole process more effective. It adds another layer beyond just personal gain. But ultimately, the sources stress, this isn't passive magic. It takes focused intention, consistent inner work.
In action.
Yeah, but inspired action. Action that flows naturally from already feeling fulfilled, not desperate action trying to get there.
Wow, okay. What a dive indeed. So living in the end is really this deep concept, rooted in faith, feeling, knowing, using imagination deliberately.
And using tools and self-awareness to keep that inner state aligned, even when things get tough.
Less about forcing the outside, more about mastering the inside. It's about that conviction.
It's recognizing that creative power is already within you and learning to consciously direct it.
So for everyone listening, as you think about your own goals, what does this all mean for you?
Well, here's maybe a provocative thought to leave you with. If your outer reality truly is a reflection of your inner state, what parts of your current life right now might be showing you exactly what inner state you're dwelling in most often, maybe without even realizing it?